Hi all, it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon now, and later this afternoon, in about 2 hours' time, I'm going to be giving a talk at Figma in Sydney at a venue called Bungalow 8. And I'm going to be talking to about 200 to 300, I think, young emerging designers who are sort of 3 to 5 years into their career. And if I'm honest, I'm slightly nervous about giving this talk. This is going to be the first time that I've spoken publicly about the journey that I've been on to redesign my life, to go from the life that I was living to the life that I really want to lead, and to share the insights and the experiences I've had on that journey. I'm not sure how it'll go down. I've worked on it over the past couple of weeks, and there's elements from various other talks I've given before, and I'm hoping to bring something together that inspires people, that lets them know that it's okay if they don't feel like they have all the answers right now. So I'll report back a little bit later, see how it went. I'll share my thoughts and some of the things I talked about. I'll make sure I share that with you soon. But I better get going and wish me luck. Well, I'm back. It turned out to be a lovely night. I was so overwhelmed with the response I got to the talk. It was really lovely to hear so many people come up to me afterwards and share their stories of struggling and redesigning their own lives. So that was really, really welcome. And thank you for being open and sharing your stories with me. And I'm really glad that what I was saying was resonating with the audience. And so what I wanted to do now was to take you all through a little bit about what I spoke about. So we'll bring up the presentation and we'll talk you through a little bit about it. I called the talk Beyond the Brief because I was talking to a room of designers and I wanted to talk in the language that they understood. They get briefs all the time. They understand that meeting the brief is kind of drummed into you when you're at school. But what happens when that brief starts to trickle over into your own life? And I was using the analogy of a brief to talk about the fact that we are now living lives by the brief that other people have given to us, whether that be our family or our co-workers or our friends or even ourselves. We're living these lives that we think we have to lead, but are they the lives that we really want to be leading? That's why I called it Beyond the living beyond the brief, and using design and reclaiming the power of design to recapture the life you want to lead. And one of the things I was really interested to point out is we now live in a world that idolizes knowledge. And when we're living this brief-filled life, we think we're getting to a point where we're creating the lives we want. But it's a trick. And as a result of this sort of illusion that we're creating, creativity is really dying off. And I was showing this diagram from this study that was done in collaboration with NASA, and it shows how creativity falls really quickly as we age. And by the time we're into adulthood, not many of us are sort of registering as creative. And that's a really sad world to be living in. And it's not a future that I want to be a part of. It's not a future I want my kids to be a part of. So I was throwing out the challenge. We are living life by the brief. Please stop and listen and think. Is this the life you really want to lead, or is it the life someone else wants you to lead? And that's where my challenge was to the audience. And what we find is that we fall into these patterns of behaviors. And I know I've spoken about this previously. These patterns of behaviors that start to dictate our lives, our day-to-day, what we do. And it can be really easy to rely on these to get us through the day. But when you do that, when you hand over your life to autopilot, you only live half a life. In fact, Psychology Today says that about 50% of your life is not really lived. It's on autopilot. It's done in other ways. So that was my challenge to the audience tonight. Find those patterns that you do without questioning. Find those behaviors that you just do because you think you have to do, or you think that they're what a designer should do, and challenge them. Because you as designers are really powerful. You as creatives are really powerful. Even if you're not a creative in the traditional sense, you're all creative. So find that power and reclaim it and take back some of your day and live your life. Change this graph till it's 100% life lived. I know that's how we would want to live, so why don't we do it? It's kind of a strange question. And it's interesting because it sort of leads on to a question that someone asked in the audience, because one of the other speakers there tonight was talking about user testing and testing hypotheses and testing designs and really doing a rigorous sort of process to make sure something will work before you roll it out into the world. And someone asked me that what I thought about this, because my talk seemed to sort of challenge that, because I was telling people to take risks and to do things that broke expectations. And it's interesting, and it brings you back to a concept of looking at logic versus intuition. And testing's good, and I'm not against testing, but if you know something's going to work and you feel it's going to work, or you've created it or designed it based on human behaviors or human psychologies that you know are inherent to how we live, then it's going to work. That's why I love the theory of first, different, unique. If you create something that's first, different, unique, it's going to change people's perceptions. People are going to see it differently. It's going to connect. So why not just roll with a project? Roll it out there, see it, use your intuition, trust your intuition, because sometimes you can get into testing overload and testing paralysis even. And what I find sometimes is when you rely on logic too much or rely on testing too much, what you're actually doing is creating an excuse for when you fail. And if you're already expecting to fail and you're creating excuses, then why do the project in the first place? Why roll that piece of work out? Why roll that change out in your life? So trust your intuition a little bit more, especially when it comes to this life transformation stuff. If it feels right for you, then do it. It was a really good question, and I got a lot of people in the room thinking, and a lot of people came up to me afterwards to continue this conversation. And if you'd like to ask any more questions about it, just pop them into the comments down below and I'll make sure I get back to you. But thank you again to everyone for having me there tonight. It was really great to speak to the designers and to connect with the design community in Sydney and to share my story. Thank you for this week, and I'll talk to you again soon.